Hello, and welcome to InPwr Incorporated Safety Orientation. We will cover a lot of topics today. You should have been given a form similar to the one you see on your screen. Please take a few minutes to complete the top. As we cover each topic, please place a check mark out to the left. Introductory topics. The first thing we would like you to know is that we have a comprehensive written safety plan. This plan is kept in our office and available on our company server. The first document you will find in the safety plan is a letter from our president. This letter emphasizes our company's strong commitment to safety. Safety is a core value at our company that can never be compromised. Please join our mission to make sure that every employee goes home safely every day. We would like you to know that we set safety goals every year. These goals always include no recordable injuries, but may include other action items as well. These goals are always communicated to all employees, and status updates are provided before the end of each year. If you would like to know more about these goals, please ask our safety coordinator. Now we will take a few minutes to help you understand everyone's safety responsibilities. At our company, we feel that everyone from our president to our newest employee must get involved and function together as a team. And just like every team, each team member must execute their role well in order for the team to achieve success. So let's start with our vice president. He plays the critical role of funding and supporting our safety plan. He does this by setting a budget each year for safety and supporting all of our safety initiatives. He also carries the unique responsibility of handling all interaction with the media. Our company has a safety coordinator whose role is to manage the responsibilities of our safety program, which include investigating any suspicion of employees being under the influence of drugs or alcohol, ensuring safety inspection and incident investigation reports are conducted, communicating any safety concerns, changes, or other critical issues to all employees, and contacting OSHA whenever necessary. One of the safety coordinator's administrative responsibilities includes managing and coordinating all our training, including the safety orientation. They do this by maintaining documentation and ensuring completion of all necessary training elements, which will be delivered either in person or online. In addition, our safety coordinator also distributes and maintains all required safety documentation. They are also responsible for keeping our safety data sheets current and maintaining a list of all of our hazardous chemicals. Coordinating medical activities is also a responsibility managed by our safety coordinator. They will coordinate drug and alcohol testing, facilitate treatment for work-related injuries, and handle insurance claims. Our safety coordinator will also work with an outside consultant who will make sure our safety manual is kept current, instruct many of our safety training classes, audit our safety documents on a routine basis to make sure they are properly completed and maintained, inspect job sites to make sure everyone is working safely, and provide guidance to our company as needed. The main responsibility of our general superintendents is to make sure their job sites are being managed safely and effectively. Whenever they are present on job sites, they should spend time observing all work activities for any existing or potential safety hazards. They should also give feedback to their crews about their safety performance before leaving any job. A second responsibility of our general superintendents is to enforce our safety requirements. They are authorized to implement all disciplinary action up to and including termination, and should follow our disciplinary action policy whenever doing so. All disciplinary actions must be documented using our company form. General superintendents also need to help educate our employees on safety. One way they do this is by conducting toolbox talks on a weekly basis. The safety coordinator will provide materials to use for these weekly meetings. General superintendents can choose which day they want to do the meeting on, and they can also delegate the responsibility of conducting the meeting to other crew members. In addition, general superintendents need to help mentor new employees. This can be done through on-the-job training and limiting the types of work they assign to these individuals until they can be taught by other crew members. General superintendents are also tasked with the responsibility of formally investigating all incidents that happen on their job sites. These investigations should happen as soon as possible and preferably within 24 hours. All investigations must be documented using our company forms and should also include taking witness statements and multiple pictures. All of this information should be forwarded to our safety coordinator, who will then process the claim. The role of our general foreman and foreman at our company is to lead and enforce. One of the ways they do this is by serving as the competent person over our job sites and critical tasks. This means they must oversee all aspects of our jobs, address any issues that are identified, and make decisions based on knowledge and experience. This is one of the most critical roles that anyone plays at our company. When required by the client, all foremen are to create a job hazard analysis at the beginning of the job. JHAs are basically tools that help crews plan the work, identify hazards, and control risks. When overseeing jobs, our general foreman and foremen need to look for potential hazards on a daily basis and make sure they are addressed before an incident occurs. After hazards are addressed, foremen should further assess the situation and decide if additional action needs to be taken. This action might include coaching employees or ensuring disciplinary action is issued for blatant or repeat offenses. Both general foremen and foremen are authorized to issue disciplinary action up to and including a written warning. However, they should communicate with their general superintendent about any disciplinary issues. We obviously hope you never have to respond to an emergency situation, but it's important to know how to if one were to occur. The first step before responding to any type of incident is always to secure the scene. You want to make sure that more people don't get injured and current injuries don't get worse. Once the scene is secure, lead everyone to a safe location. This location may be pre-designated and may vary depending on the situation, such as a severe weather shelter area or a fire rally point. If emergency medical treatment is necessary, have someone call 911 and begin issuing the treatment. Our general foreman and foremen are first aid, CPR, and AED trained. Someone should then report the incident to the appropriate people. This may include our client, the owner, and our safety coordinator. After taking care of treatment and reporting, conduct a head count to make sure everyone is present. Notify the emergency responders of anyone missing and where you last saw them. The last point to make is to avoid any responses to the media. Our vice president is designated to handle all media relations. When any type or magnitude of an incident occurs, our general foreman and foremen need to notify their general superintendent and the safety coordinator immediately. This includes injuries, vehicle accidents, and property damages. They must then make sure the proper form is completed to gather basic information about the incident. We have separate forms for injuries, vehicle accidents, and property damages. If there is a question about the completion of these reports, please ask our safety coordinator. The last core responsibility of our general foreman and foremen when it comes to safety is to oversee the completion of all safety-related forms. We've already discussed some of these forms, including the job hazard analysis, toolbox talks, disciplinary action, first report of injury, and the vehicle accident report. The other forms your crew may need to complete are the energized electrical assessment and work permit. This form must be completed prior to crossing the restricted approach boundary to work on or near live energized parts. The lift inspection report must be completed daily before operating an aerial or scissor lift, and the forklift inspection log must be completed before operating a forklift. If OSHA were to show up on your job site, we do not want you to be uncooperative. Instead, we want you to greet them with a handshake and introduce yourself professionally. After you get the introductions out of the way, you will need to contact our safety coordinator and your general superintendent before proceeding. The safety coordinator, general superintendent, and our safety consultant will come to the job site if they are available. If the inspection continues without anyone else present, we want you to do these 4 things. Fix all issues immediately if possible. Document all conversations and any issues they point out. Take duplicate pictures of everything they take a picture of. And if asked how long it will take to fix a hazard, give more time than you think. Now that we have talked about the responsibilities of our supervisory positions, let's talk about the responsibilities of the rest of our employees. As we stated earlier, every employee must get involved with our safety program in order for us to be successful. This means that all employees must follow all of our safety requirements, avoid performing any unauthorized tasks, and refuse to do anything that you feel is unsafe. This is not just your right, but your responsibility. Even though we don't require our crews to conduct documented safety inspections of their own work area, we do expect all employees to look for hazards and correct them. We also expect employees to correct others whenever they see them doing something unsafe. We feel that this is everyone's job, not just our foreman. We want all employees to help our foreman by monitoring job sites for hazards and addressing them when possible. If you see a hazardous situation, take action to address it and notify your foreman immediately. Don't just walk on by and let them deal with it later. Incidents must be reported to foreman immediately. This includes all injuries, vehicle accidents, and property damages. One more point to make about injury reporting is that we want all personal injuries that happen off the job reported as well. Knowing about personal injuries allows us to consider making accommodations in order to avoid aggravating the injury while at work. Last but not least, we want our employees to give us feedback. Our safety program was designed for you, so we hope you will take ownership in it and let us know if you have any ideas for improvement. Safety suggestions and improvement ideas should either be verbally communicated to your general superintendent, the safety coordinator, or by writing them on the Toolbox Talk form. General safety topics. Ammonia is a colorless gas under normal conditions. It can be a liquid under pressure. It has a pungent, suffocating odor. High concentrations of ammonia gas, liquid ammonia, and solutions of ammonia can cause harm if inhaled or if they come into contact with eyes or skin. Foreman will conduct a walk-around inspection of our job sites before work begins. During these inspections, materials and equipment that could potentially contain ammonia shall be looked for that our employees could potentially become exposed to, such as bulk ammonia tanks, industrial refrigeration, machinery rooms, equipment and piping, petroleum refineries, agricultural fertilizer. If any such materials and equipment are identified, they will then be discussed with the owners prior to work beginning. If work is performed by another contractor who is located near our employees and their work could potentially release ammonia into the atmosphere, our employees must immediately evacuate the area and notify the Vice President and Safety Coordinator. Asbestos awareness. Asbestos is a microscopic spear-shaped fiber that is mined from the Earth's surface. An interesting fact about asbestos is that it's so lightweight that it would take one piece of asbestos over 8 hours to land if it was dropped from 6 feet above the floor. Because of its durable and fire retardant qualities, asbestos has been used in many materials over the years. Some of those materials include pipe insulation, ceiling tiles, flooring tile, adhesives, brake pads, shingles, house siding, and more. Asbestos was eventually found to be hazardous whenever the fibers are disturbed and become airborne. Research has proven that inhalation and ingestion of asbestos fibers can cause lung disease and cancer. It also suggests that smokers are 50 times more likely to develop lung disease from asbestos exposure than non-smokers. Because of this, the use of asbestos in residential and commercial construction products was banned in 1978. Whenever working in facilities that were built prior to 1978, it is possible that asbestos could be present. This is why it's important to inspect older facilities for signs of asbestos before work begins. Look for the materials previously listed or warning signs indicating the presence of asbestos. Ask the owner if any asbestos is present and where it's located. If they don't seem to know, then stop the job and notify your supervisor. The company may need to request testing. Benzene awareness. Benzene can be found in some common products such as gasoline, hydraulic fluids, and pesticides. Benzene exposure could occur when disturbing or working around soil that is contaminated with one of these products. Benzene is toxic, colorless, flammable, has an aromatic odor, and is not soluble in water. Short-term effects of overexposure to benzene may include irritation of eyes, nose, and skin, breathlessness, irritability, euphoria, headache, dizziness, or nausea. Long-term effects may result in blood disorders such as leukemia and anemia. General superintendents and foremen shall assess the likelihood of soil being contaminated before disturbing soil or allowing employees to work around an excavation. This will be done by considering the location of the excavation. For example, is it near a gas station, landfill, or chemical plant? And by looking for signs of contamination, pungent odor, discolored soil, oily sheen on top of groundwater. If the determination is made that the soil could be contaminated, the crew must stop work immediately, evacuate the immediate area, and contact the safety coordinator followed by the customer. Bloodborne pathogen awareness. Bloodborne pathogens are simply diseases that are carried in bodily fluids. Those diseases can range from HIV to hepatitis, syphilis, malaria, and more. When most people think of bloodborne pathogens, they think of a disease carried in the blood, but the truth is disease can be found in many forms of bodily fluids. The list shown on your screen shows some of them. Bloodborne pathogens can enter your body in many different ways. They can be injected directly into your bloodstream if you are punctured by a contaminated sharp. They can also enter through an open wound, absorb through your eyes, and be ingested through the mouth and nose. In order to protect yourself, make sure to treat all bodily fluids as infectious and avoid contact. Know the biohazard symbol as you see on your screen, and avoid handling any container or entering any area that is labeled with this symbol. If you are ever exposed to someone else's bodily fluid, use soap to wash the point of contact immediately and then notify your supervisor. We may need to send you to a clinic for a medical evaluation and possible treatment. Confined space awareness. A confined space defined by OSHA is any space that is not designed for humans to be in it. However, it's large enough for them to enter and do work, and it has limited way of getting in and out. Some common examples could be tanks, vessels, hoppers, vaults, pits, manholes, attics, and crawl spaces. Confined spaces can be dangerous whenever they involve a potentially hazardous atmosphere, engulfment hazards, configuration hazard, or any other hazard that could result in serious injury or death. Our employees are not permitted to enter any type of confined space under any circumstances. If a situation arises that would involve entry into a confined space, the company's safety coordinator must be notified. An entry employer is an employer who decides that an employee it directs will enter a permit space. A host employer is the facility owner or a controlling contractor. They must discuss spaces on the site and their hazards with entry employers and each other before and after entry. The host employer must provide information it has about permit spaces at the work site to the controlling contractor, who then passes it on to the entry employer. Likewise, entry employers must give the controlling contractor information about their entry program and hazards they encounter in the space. The controlling contractor is also responsible for making sure employers outside a space know not to create hazards in the space, and that entry employers working in a space at the same time Do not create hazards for one another's workers. If you're ever on a project that requires you to enter a confined space in order to do the work, stop and notify your supervisor immediately. Do not enter the space. As mentioned before, our company does not allow employees to enter a confined space. There are many precautions that trained workers must take before they enter. Some of those precautions include completing a permit, monitoring the atmosphere continuously, using forced air ventilation, using a mechanical retrieval device, having a rescue plan, and having an attendant on site. As you can see, there's a lot of thought and planning that must go into confined space entry. Driving safety. Every year, statistics prove that transportation is the leading cause of fatality in the workplace. This is why we want to take a few minutes and share some driving safety tips with you. If you were to guess what the leading cause of vehicle accidents is, what would you guess? The answer is backing. This surprises many people, especially when considering how many miles we drive forward compared to how many feet we drive in reverse each day. But it happens so often because people cannot see well when they back. So what are some ways that you could avoid a backing collision? The best way is to park to avoid backing. This can be done a couple of different ways. One way is to do what is called pull-through parking. How you do this is you pull through a parking space into another space across from it so that when you leave, you keep moving forward. A second way is to do what is called curbside parking. This is commonly done at convenience stores and gas stations. It involves parking alongside a curb so you can continue pulling forward when you leave. If you are ever forced to back up, it is a good habit to have a spotter spot for you. If you don't have someone with you who could spot, you should at least walk around the vehicle so you can look around and see what is around you. When forced to pull into a parking spot, we usually recommend backing into it. It's much safer to back into a space where nothing is moving instead of backing out of a space and into an area where cars, pedestrians, and other objects are constantly moving. The second leading cause of accidents is rear-end collisions. This is a very simple cause and only one problem: following too close. We recommend maintaining a following distance of at least 4 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. We realize that this is something tough, but it's possible and it's much safer and a less stressful way to drive. The third leading cause of accidents is turning and merging. 26% of all vehicle accidents are caused when turning and merging. One of the best precautions for this is to merge lanes well before you need to. Also, activate your signal and delay. Give other people around you a chance to see that you are going to change lanes and not be in their blind spot. Glance over your shoulder before actually shifting a lane. And while you shift a lane, drift across. This gives other people time to react. Practice these few things and you can help reduce your chances of an accident by literally 92%. A few other important things to remember about driving are: make sure that your driver's license is valid, especially before driving a company vehicle. Always follow all local, state, and federal laws, including speed limits and wearing your seatbelt. Make sure before hauling any kind of load that it's properly secured. And avoid any kind of action or behavior that would divert your attention away from the road, especially texting. Electrical safety. Electricity kills 300 workers in the United States each year. Considering there are only 260 workdays per year, this means at least one worker dies every day. Of those fatalities, most of them occur in the construction industry, and only a third of them are electricians. This means most victims are people just like you. A common misconception about electricity is that only high voltage can kill someone. However, the truth is that volts don't determine how bad a shock is. Amps do. This chart shows the effects that electricity has on the human body. A mild shock occurs at 2 milliamps, muscle contractions at 20 milliamps, and the heart stops beating at 100 milliamps. To help put this in perspective, a standard electrical outlet carries 15 to 20 amps, which is 1500 to 2000 milliamps, and that's definitely enough to do the trick. Because electricity is so deadly, only qualified electrical workers shall perform work on live energized parts. This includes penetrating live electrical components or cabinets. If electrical components must be worked around, the power should be shut off and locked out prior to work beginning, if possible. Our energized electrical assessment and work permit must be completed for every task that involves crossing a restricted approach boundary. The permit must be completed by the qualified electrical worker performing the work and signed by a company executive, such as a vice president or above. Extension cords must be inspected daily before use. Cords must be removed from service immediately and either repaired or replaced whenever worn, cut, frayed, melted, or otherwise damaged. Repairs can only be made by a qualified and authorized person. All electrical components must be grounded. Grounding provides a good path for the electricity to take instead of using your body if the device were to become energized. So using a receptacle that is not grounded, not inserting the ground pin on a plug, or using an electrical device that doesn't have a ground pin is not permitted. The only exception is using a tool that is double insulated. Tools will be labeled if they are double insulated. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCI, shut off the power if an electrical device becomes energized. Using electrical devices without them could allow current to flow through the user's body for an extended period of time. This is why all electrical outlets must be equipped with a GFCI. High voltage can arc or jump from one conductor to another. This is why we require a safe clearance of 10 feet to be maintained around all energized power lines. Whenever working outside, be aware of storms that may occur. Lightning kills 50 people in the United States each year. That's an average of one a week. Whenever lightning is seen or thunder is heard, seek shelter immediately and wait for at least 30 minutes after the last thunder is heard before returning outside. Emergency response. General foremen and foremen are responsible for responding to emergency situations. They are also required to identify safe shelter areas and evacuation rally points on each job. Prior to beginning each project, foremen will complete an emergency action plan, which is part of the site-specific safety plan before each new job that requires a SSSP. If an SSSP is not required, the emergency action plan form will be completed unless a job hazard analysis is needed for that job. Then there is an emergency action plan section on the bottom of the JHA. This emergency action plan shall be posted in a conspicuous location on the job site. Please make sure you know what the emergency procedures are for each project. Excavation safety. Excavations can be one of the most dangerous places to work because the walls can easily become unstable and collapse. And while some think they could just stand up, wiggle free, or stay in the dirt until a coworker digs them out, soil weighs much more than you probably think. How much do you think 1 cubic yard of soil weighs? 1 cubic yard is a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot box. Many might guess 100 pounds, 500 pounds, or even 1,000 pounds. The answer is 3,000 pounds. That's about the same as a small single cab truck. Can you imagine what that would feel like coming down on you? Most victims of trench collapses become trapped, crushed, suffocate, and die. In fact, this happens to about 40 people in the United States every year. We require all excavations to be inspected before entering them in order to make sure they're safe. If you were inspecting this excavation in the picture on your screen, what issues might you have? Hopefully you notice that the excavator is parked on the edge of an occupied excavation. Excavators can be on the edge of an excavation while they're digging, as long as a spotter is used and nobody is in the excavation. However, they must be moved back before someone enters. Another problem is that the spoil, or loose dirt, is resting right on the edge of the excavation. Remember, just 1 cubic yard of soil is 3,000 pounds, so letting it rest on the bank like this is like parking a truck on the edge and then getting down into it. This is why soil and debris must be pushed at least 2 foot back from the edge. They also don't have a safe way to get in and out of the excavation. A ladder, steps, or a dirt ramp must be used in all excavations over 4 foot deep. Ladders must extend 3 feet out of the excavation, steps cannot be more than 18 inches high, and dirt ramps must be dug so that employees aren't forced to use their hands when walking out. The last main issue is that it's not protected from collapse. All excavations over 5 foot deep must be protected somehow from collapse. This can be done by sloping the walls, possibly stepping the walls back, using trench boxes, or using aluminum hydraulic shoring. You see, none of these methods are used here. This picture shows the use of sloping. When sloping an excavation dug in fairly firm dirt, such as clay, the walls must be laid back at a 45-degree angle. Excavations dug in loose dirt, such as sand, must be laid back at a 34-degree angle. We cannot tell what type of soil is in this excavation, but if it were to be loose soil, such as sand, none of the walls would be sloped at a proper angle. If it were to be firm soil, such as clay, then possibly the closer walls could be sloped at the right angle. But as you see, as the picture goes far away, the walls get steeper and steeper. So working down towards the end of that trench would not be acceptable. You would need to lay these walls back more in order to get in and do work. On another note, you do notice that in most cases it looks like the spoil is laid back at least 2 feet, and they do have a ladder on site. This picture illustrates the use of 2 static steel trench boxes. If you were instructed to enter these trench boxes, would you? If no, why not? There are 4 major issues with this picture. One is the wall to the left. This wall is much higher than the top of the trench box. If it were to collapse, it would fill the inside of the box and crush whoever is inside. Trench boxes must either be flush with the top of the ground or the walls must be sloped at a safe angle and the top of the box must extend out of the ground at least 18 inches. A second issue is seen with the far wall. Although it doesn't appear to be higher than the trench box, there is nothing preventing it from filling the box through the open side. A steel plate should be used to prevent the dirt from entering the box, or the wall should be sloped at the proper angle. As we work our way around the open side of the box, we see the wall to the right. There is a very large open gap between the box and the trench wall. If the wall to the left would collapse, this would allow the box to tip over to the right. All boxes must either be backfilled halfway or no more than 12 inches between the box and the wall should exist. And the last issue is more of a question. How do you enter this trench box? The only way to do it would be to get down into an unsafe area and then walk over into the box. This is not allowed for obvious reasons. If the boxes were backfilled up against as they should be, then you could easily place a ladder inside that would allow for safe entry and exit. Here's another picture of some trench boxes. Take a look and see what you find wrong. One issue is the tree on the left. How much of the root system do you think they removed when digging this excavation? We don't know for sure, but that is a fairly large tree and the excavation doesn't look too far away. This tree might need to be staked back to prevent tipping. As we just mentioned in the previous slide, trench boxes must be within 12 inches from the sidewalls or they must be backfilled at least halfway. This void to the right appears to be much more than 12 inches, which would allow the box to shift to the right if the wall to the left were to give. Did you notice the ladder? It's good the crew is using a ladder, but it wouldn't be very safe to use, would it? Ladders must extend at least 3 feet above the landing or box in order to allow people to get on and off of them safely. One other issue is that this box is missing some cross braces. These boxes were designed to have 2 cross braces on each end of each panel. These boxes are missing some cross braces in the middle, which drastically reduces the capacity of these boxes. The last issue to point out is the street plate used at the end of the box. While it's good this crew is using a plate to prevent the end of the excavation from filling the open side, the plate needs to overlap the sidewalls of the box. If it doesn't, then it would put lateral pressure against the cross braces and could cause the entire box to collapse. This picture shows the use of aluminum hydraulic shoring. Aluminum hydraulic shoring must be designed using the manufacturer's instructions and overseen by a competent person. However, we want all employees to visually inspect all trenches before getting into them. Some quick pointers, though, are to make sure that there are always at least 4 cylinders in every excavation. This picture shows 8 cylinders. These cylinders must also be spaced 4 feet or less vertically and 8 feet or less horizontally, and in poor soil conditions they should also be used with boards or plates as shown in the picture. Cylinders must be in good condition without any dents, bends, or leaks. Never stand on aluminum hydraulic cylinders. No matter what type of system is used to protect trenches from collapse, always make sure that standing or seeping water is removed before entry. Water turns dirt into mud, and walls that have a soft, muddy foundation are much more likely to cave in. When it comes to excavations, water is your worst enemy. Extreme temperatures. Before working in hot weather, be sure to check the heat index. The heat index is the temperature plus the humidity. Whenever the heat index is 100 degrees Fahrenheit or more, use caution. One of the most effective ways to prevent heat illness is to stay hydrated. Most physicians recommend drinking 8 ounces of water every 30 minutes. Drinking 1 sports drink to every 3 waters can also help by restoring electrolytes your body has lost due to excess sweating. Another way to protect yourself is to wear sunscreen in order to prevent sunburn. Sunburn does not allow the body to cool down properly, which increases the chance of heat illness. Wearing light-colored clothing can also help by repelling the heat. Note that alcohol dehydrates the body and can drastically increase the chance of having a heat stress illness, even when consumed the night before. Caffeine can make some people urinate more frequently, which can also make it more difficult for your body to battle heat illnesses. Both of these types of drinks should be avoided. Our employees are encouraged to use the buddy system when working in hot environments by periodically checking on their crew members to make sure they're feeling well and staying hydrated. Our crews are also encouraged to take short breaks in the shade on extremely hot days. Our foremen are responsible for initiating and facilitating these breaks as needed. Taking all the precautions we just discussed will help you reduce the risk of heat illness, but it doesn't guarantee you won't have heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Please take a few minutes to study the symptoms displayed on the screen. As you can see, heat exhaustion requires immediate action, but heat stroke is a medical emergency that must be treated by 911. If you ever have these symptoms, please act accordingly. Check the wind chill before working outdoors in cold weather. Wind chill is the temperature plus the wind speed. As you can see by the chart displayed, working outdoors when the wind chill is below 0 degree Fahrenheit can be very dangerous. The best way to prevent hypothermia is to dress in warm layers. We recommend wearing at least 3 layers, with the inner layer being something that wicks away perspiration, like Under Armour, the middle layer being a thick warm layer like a heavy sweatshirt, and the outer layer being something that repels moisture like an insulated nylon coat. We also recommend layering socks and gloves in extreme temperatures. The best way to prevent frostbite is to cover all exposed skin and keep it dry. Frostbite occurs when wet skin is hit with cold wind. Just like heat stress, alcohol and caffeine can restrict your body's ability to regulate temperature. consumption of alcohol within 24 hours of working in cold temperatures, and consumption of caffeine while working in cold temperatures is strongly discouraged. Fall protection. Falling from heights is one of the biggest risks that most construction workers face. Each year, over 600 people fall to their death while at work. That's almost 2 per day. This is why we require fall protection to be worn whenever working over 6 foot and when on aerial lifts. Please note that we do not require fall protection to be worn on ladders or on scissor lifts. However, some of our customers may, and if they do, we will comply. There are 6 common systems that can be used to prevent falls. These systems are a personal fall arrest system, a guardrail system, a warning line system, a safety net system, a safety monitor, and a controlled access zone. If you are ever asked to install any other type of system, stop work and seek guidance before proceeding. So let's talk about some important things you need to know about personal fall arrest systems. For those who are not already familiar with these systems, they consist of 3 components: a body harness, a lanyard, and an anchor point. The first component of a personal fall arrest system is the body harness. Body harnesses must be inspected each day before use. These inspections should be done by looking at the entire harness for any types of defects. Look at all metal components. There shouldn't be any bends, dents, burrs, rust, or other damage. Make sure all components operate properly. If a latch sticks or any other issue is found, then the harness needs to be removed from service immediately. While inspecting a harness, also look at any plastic or rubber components for possible stretching, breaks, or dry rotting. Take the webbing in your hands. Bend it in a U shape and look at both sides of the entire harness. Look for cuts, pulled threads, burn marks, chemical damage, dry rotting, brittleness, and signs of shock loading. Again, any defects found on a body harness should result in the harness being immediately removed from service. The best way to prevent damage to a harness is to store it properly. Harnesses should be hung by their D-ring in an area that doesn't expose it to any chemicals, heat, sunlight, or sharp objects. Never store a harness in a toolbox where blades or other sharp objects are kept. When putting on a body harness, grab the D-ring and face the front of the harness towards you. Now put the harness on like you would a jacket. Simply put one of your arms through the shoulder strap, sling the harness across your back, and put your other arm through the other shoulder strap. Next, make sure the D-ring is positioned between your shoulder blades. Wearing it too low could throw you forward upon impact, and wearing it too high could cause the lanyard to hit you in the back of the head. Now adjust the leg straps. You want to wear them tight enough so that you cannot easily run your hands down through them. Please note that wearing these too loose can cause severe injury to the groin area upon impact. Adjust your chest straps next. You want this to be at your sternum level. Wearing it lower can increase your chance of falling out if you get thrown forward, and wearing it too high can choke you upon impact. Lastly, adjust the rest of the straps so that the harness is snug to the body. Let's talk about the next component of fall arrest systems, anchor points. Anchor points must be substantial in strength. In fact, they must be capable of withstanding 5,000 pounds per employee tied to it. So, if you have 2 employees tied to one anchor point, it must be capable of withstanding 10,000 pounds. A common item that weighs approximately 5,000 pounds is a mid-sized SUV. So before anything is used as an anchor point, examine it and ask yourself, would that hold a mid-sized SUV? If not, then it's not a suitable anchor point. In some cases, anchor points have already been tested and approved. Sometimes these are found at our customer locations, and other times you may find them inside of equipment, such as aerial lifts. Any anchor point that has been tested and approved by a qualified person can be used. There are other times, though, where approved anchor points are not available. In these cases, we will need to find something suitable, such as a steel beam, rooftop unit, large pipe, or concrete structure. Anything capable of withstanding 5,000 pounds of force can be used, as long as the client does not disapprove. When using a field-engineered anchor point, we will need a device that allows us to attach to that anchor point. This slide shows several different attachments that are available, from steel bolts to surface-mounted eyelets, beam clamps, beam and pipe chokers, and concrete anchors. There are several different possible solutions. Each device should come with installation instructions from the manufacturer. Please take the time necessary to read and understand those instructions. All devices must be installed per manufacturer requirements. When attaching to an anchor point, try to always attach at shoulder height or higher. This is important because it reduces the force applied to your body and the amount applied to your fall protection system. The longer you fall, the more force you will generate. Also try to avoid traveling too far when attaching overhead, like the picture to your right. If this individual were to actually fall, it would cause them to swing back and forth, which may cause injury if they strike something in their path. A good rule of thumb is to limit your travel to 15 degrees or less. Make sure you inspect lanyards before use, just like your body harnesses. Look at the webbing for acid or caustic burns, cuts, edge cuts, melting or charring, abrasions, punctures, welding spatter, broken or worn stitches, and damaged eyes. Look at the metal latches to make sure they close on their own without sticking, and make sure all bolts and rivets are in place. Protect lanyards from sharp or abrasive edges. Never tie them in knots, never attach them to a guardrail, or tie one back to itself. Using lanyards like this can cause them to snap upon impact. Before using a personal fall arrest system, make sure to calculate your fall distance. Start at your anchor point and add the length of your lanyard. Then add 3.5 more feet if there is a deceleration device built into your lanyard. Include how tall you are, and then add a safety factor of 3 feet so that your feet don't actually hit the ground. For example, if someone who is 6 foot tall wears a standard 6-foot shock-absorbing lanyard, this would equal 18.5 feet. This means that if that person's tie-off point is lower than 18.5 feet, they would be in danger of hitting the ground. If you find yourself in this situation, you may want to switch from a 6-foot lanyard to a self-retracting lifeline in order to reduce the fall distance. The last point to make about personal fall arrest systems is to have a rescue plan in place. When people hang in a harness for 3 to 20 minutes, they can begin experiencing complications because their blood starts to pool in their legs. This can cause complications like unconsciousness, heart arrhythmias, and even death. So make sure you know how you're going to get down without much delay. We rely on guardrails as our primary form of fall protection when working in lifts, on scaffolds, and on elevated walkways. If guardrails are our primary source of fall protection, make sure to inspect the railing each day. If a guardrail is missing, damaged, or not substantial, then our employees are to refrain from working in that area. Every guardrail system must have a top rail that's approximately 42 inches from the work surface and a mid-rail at the halfway point. If anyone is working below, then we must also have a toe board approximately 1/8 inch from the work surface. Warning lines. There may be certain jobs that you do where you get onto a roof and you see a warning line system like this. And this is an approved method of fall protection. But there are certain things that have to be met in order for this to work. The very first thing is warning line systems are not approved for anything over a 412 pitch. So it has to be a fairly low sloped or flat roof like this in order to use a warning line system. The second thing is, because we are not a roofing company, they are allowed to use these within 6 foot of the edge of the roof, but we are only allowed to use these within 15 of the edge of the roof. So not only does it have to be a flat roof or a 412 or less pitch, these warning line systems must be installed at least 15 feet from the edge of the roof and all surrounding edges. If that is the case and you're working on a low sloped or flat roof and you have a warning line system like this, which is fairly taut, no more than 39 inches from the deck, has flags every 6 feet like this, and it's 15 feet back from the edge, then you can work legally inside the warning line system without wearing any fall protection at all. That is legal. The only time secondary problems occur is if there is a hatch open or a skylight or something else within that warning line system that would cause an additional fall hazard. Otherwise, you are free to work there without fall protection. If you cross the warning line, you must put on fall protection. Safety monitors. Safety monitors are used in combination with warning line systems that we just spoke about. The safety monitor is someone who has been designated by the employer and is identified as competent person in recognizing fall hazards. While the work is taking place, the safety monitor must be on the same working surface as those people who are performing the work activity, and they must be able to effectively communicate with everyone they are responsible for. The main responsibility of a safety monitor is to warn employees of any hazards and make sure all trip hazards are controlled in the work area. The safety monitor must always stay alert and cannot have any other assigned duties, tasks, or be distracted in any type of activity, which includes the use of a cell phone. Controlled access zones. A controlled access zone cannot be less than 6 feet and not more than 25 feet from the unprotected or leading edge. The control line must extend along the entire length of the unprotected or leading edge and will be approximately parallel to the unprotected or leading edge. The use of controlled access zones is only permitted for specific types of work, specifically those jobs for which it is proven that the use of traditional fall protection is not feasible. A controlled access zone is an area that is not accessible by workers. Unless a worker makes a deliberate action to enter the area, they are permitted to enter the area by their fall protection plan, and a safety monitor is present to supervise work being done in that area. An example of a controlled access zone is a guardrail system with a gate. Once a worker passes through the gate, the safety monitor begins to supervise their work. We would like to make a couple more comments before moving on to the next topic. One is to make sure that all skylights are either covered or guarded if you are ever working on a rooftop. The glass used in most skylight systems is not designed to support weight. Also make sure that all nearby floor holes are covered to prevent objects from falling through them. Floor hole covers need to be substantial and secured in place. Fire extinguishers. We have placed fire extinguishers in all company vehicles and on all of our job sites. Please make sure one is posted within 100 feet from the work area whenever a fire hazard exists. Fire extinguishers should be unobstructed, maintained in good condition, and be fully charged as seen when looking at the gauge to the left. Extinguishers also need to have a certified inspection done annually by a third party. These inspections are documented on their tags as seen in the picture to the right. So by looking at the tag shown in the picture to the right, we can tell that the extinguisher was last inspected in July of 2009. If you see an extinguisher that's out of date, please bring it into our office so that we can replace it with one that is current. All of our employees are authorized to use the fire extinguisher in order to extinguish a fire as long as they feel comfortable doing so, the flame is small, smoke and heat are minimal, hazardous chemicals are not involved, and there still is a way out if the extinguisher does not work. To operate a fire extinguisher, follow the PASS system. This system involves pulling the pin, aiming at the base of the fire, squeezing the handle, and sweeping side to side. A few other tips for using a fire extinguisher successfully are: start 8 to 10 feet from the fire and slowly move toward it as you operate the extinguisher. Sweep the entire width of the fire at a steady pace. Sweeping too fast or too slow may limit your effectiveness. And do not stop squeezing the handle until the extinguisher is completely empty. Spraying intermittently or stopping early can allow the fire to quickly rekindle. We want to end this topic with a few words of caution. Fires double in size every 60 seconds, as you can see in these pictures. Trying to be a hero or preventing damage to property while jeopardizing your personal health and safety is not a good decision. If the fire you are trying to fight cannot be safely extinguished with one extinguisher, please just get out. Fire prevention. There are 3 common ingredients needed for a fire to exist. These ingredients are heat, fuel, and oxygen. If you remove just one of these elements, a fire can't occur. But since humans need oxygen to survive, the best way to prevent a fire is to separate heat and fuel sources. This is why we require heat sources to be at least 50 feet from flammable or combustible materials. If this cannot be done, then other precautions must be taken in order to prevent a fire from occurring. Those precautions could involve barricading or covering the materials, or using a fire watch whenever significant heat sources are nearby. In addition to separating heat and fuel sources, we should inspect the work area frequently to make sure that flammables are not spilled and are stored in safe containers. Portable fuel containers must have a metal shell with a self-closing lid. Those containers need to be in good shape and clearly marked. All flammable rags need to be placed in metal containers with metal lids. First aid awareness. We want you to know that all of our general foremen and foremen are first aid, CPR, and AED trained. If you become injured on the job, please report to your foreman for treatment. Also note that first aid kits are on our job sites and kept in our company vehicles. Please report the use of supplies to your foreman so we can restock them. General health and safety. We will not tolerate any horseplay, threats, harassment, bullying, or acts of violence. We also prohibit weapons to be carried in company vehicles or on company property. If you have a pocket knife that you would like to carry for work purposes, please show it to your supervisor and seek permission to carry it during work. Before lifting anything, first check the size of the load. Use a lifting device if one is nearby, or get help before lifting anything over 50 pounds. Stagger your feet and plant them shoulder width apart. Bend at knees and get good grip of object. Before you lift, look up and straighten your back like weightlifters do. Then use your leg muscles to lift. After lifting, keep the object close to your body and avoid twisting. When setting the object down, set it down the same way you lifted it. Hand and power tools. There are a few critical precautions to take when working with hand and power tools. The very first step is to plan ahead and make sure the right tools will be present on a job. When this isn't done, it often results in someone using a tool that wasn't designed to perform a task, like using a knife instead of a screwdriver, or a wrench instead of a hammer. It's mistakes like these that lead to injury. Once you have the right tool selected for the task, take time to inspect it for damage. All tools must be inspected at least once a day before initial use. Look for cracked or splintered wood, bent or deformed metal, and ensure proper operation. If a tool is found to be defective, take it out of service immediately and don't use it until the proper repairs can be made. Once you have the proper tool selected and you've inspected it, make sure to use it properly. If you are unsure about how to safely operate a tool, please stop and ask your supervisor for guidance or look in the owner's manual for instruction. A few additional precautions about tools that we would like to share before moving on to the next topic are: Tie back long hair and remove loose clothing around rotating parts. Guards can only be removed for maintenance purposes if the tool is unplugged first. And store all tools in a safe and dry area. Hazard communication. Hazard communication is a term used by OSHA to define chemical safety. As we talk about chemical safety, it's important to know how a chemical can enter your body. There are 4 main routes of entry. Do you know them? They are inhalation, ingestion, absorption, and injection. Inhalation is breathing in harmful toxins that are given off by a chemical. Ingestion means either swallowing a chemical itself or having a chemical go down the nasal cavity and down into the throat. Absorption means actually absorbing the chemical through your skin or eyes. And injection is actually injecting the chemical directly into your bloodstream. Chemicals can cause various degrees of illnesses. One type of illness is an acute. An acute illness is an illness that shows symptoms that are noticed shortly after exposure. Examples would be a headache, nausea, vomiting. Chronic illnesses typically show symptoms several months or even years after exposure. Unlike most acute illnesses, chronic illnesses may require advanced medical treatment. Examples include liver disease, cancer, and infertility. We want you to know that we have all of the following. We have a written hazard communication program. This is a written policy that identifies how our employees can work safely around hazardous chemicals. We also have a chemical inventory list. This is a comprehensive list of all the hazardous chemicals that our company uses on a regular basis. In addition, we also have safety data sheets. A safety data sheet is a document that contains specific information about a hazardous substance. We have a safety data sheet for every hazardous substance that we use. All of these materials are made available to our employees via our company website to provide employee access 24 hours a day. Hard copies of these materials will also be posted in our facilities and given to each general superintendent before the start of every project for them to keep on the job site. We have mentioned safety data sheets multiple times throughout this presentation, but we would like to take a few minutes to give you a better understanding of the information they contain. All safety data sheets have a standard 16-section format. These 16 sections can be seen on your screen. As you can see, safety data sheets will let you know how a substance is hazardous in Section 2 and how to protect yourself in Section 8. These are 2 of the more frequently referenced sections on the safety data sheet. However, you can also find other useful information such as how to treat exposure, clean up spills, transportation, handling, storing, and disposal guidelines as well. In general, safety data sheets will tell you just about everything you would want or need to know about a specific product. All chemical containers must be labeled with the product name and associated hazards. Chemical containers that come from manufacturers have labels like what you see on your screen. These labels are almost like abbreviated safety data sheets. As you can see, they tell you the product name, hazards associated with the product, the precautions you need to take, and they will also display signal words and what OSHA calls pictograms. We will talk about signal words and pictograms next. Signal words are just words that give us a quick idea of how hazardous a chemical is. There are 3 types of signal words that manufacturers print on their labels. The first is danger, as you see on the label displayed. If you ever see a label with the signal word danger on it, you should use extreme caution. These types of chemicals can cause serious illness and possibly death. The second type of signal word is warning. Warning means the user should exercise moderate caution in order to avoid illness. The last signal word is no signal word at all. If no signal word is found on a label, this means there is no recognized hazard associated with that product. There are 8 safety-related pictograms you can see on safety data sheets and labels. These 8 pictograms are irritant, carcinogen or mutagen, highly toxic or fatal, corrosive, flammable, oxidizer, explosive, and compressed gas. Just to make sure you understand, a carcinogen is something that's known to cause cancer. A mutagen is something that's known to target an organ. An oxidizer is a substance that's known to intensify a flame. So how do you protect yourself from chemical exposure? The best solution is to use a different product that is not hazardous, but that isn't always possible. If you have to work with a hazardous substance and cannot find a safe alternative, then you might utilize job rotation to limit each employee's exposure time. Another option is using mechanical ventilation. This may especially be needed when working indoors or in a poorly ventilated area. However, air monitoring would be needed in order to make sure that the ventilation is working properly. If substitution, job rotation, and ventilation won't control the hazard, then your last resort may be wearing personal protective equipment. As mentioned before, all necessary PPE can be found on the product's safety data sheet. Hearing conservation. Exposure to loud noise can cause permanent hearing loss. At InPwr Incorporated, we perform a task that involves loud noise, including operating hammer drills. When performing this task or working in an area that would require someone to raise their voice to communicate to someone standing next to them, we require the use of hearing protection. The company does not allow an employee to operate a hammer drill for longer than 1 hour per day. The three basic types of hearing protection are earmuffs, canal caps, and earplugs. Any of these three types can be worn at our company. The positives of earmuffs are that they can easily be put on and they offer the unique ability to use two types of protection by wearing the muffs over earplugs. This may be needed in extremely loud situations. The negative aspects are that they often get hot, they are usually heavy, and they must be kept clean. The positives of canal caps are that they can easily be put in, they aren't as hot and heavy as earmuffs, and they are not that expensive. The negative is that they must be kept clean and that they offer the least amount of protection from noise because they don't form a tight seal over or in the ear canal. The positives of earplugs are that they are inexpensive and they usually offer the most protection. The negative is that they are the most difficult to put in. We provide earplugs to our employees at no cost. When inserting earplugs, reach around behind your head and pull your ear up and back. This needs to be done in order to straighten your ear canal, which allows for a better fit. Then insert the plug and hold it for approximately 30 seconds so that it has time to expand. If you use disposable earplugs, make sure to dispose and replace them after each use. If you use reusable earplugs, canal caps, or ear muffs, make sure to keep them clean daily. Hearing loss is permanent and something you will deal with the rest of your entire life. Construction environments are loud. Please protect your hearing by wearing your hearing protection. Heavy equipment. When working around heavy equipment, it is important to be aware and follow these guidelines. Heavy equipment shall be operated by authorized and trained operators only. Never walk or stand under an elevated bucket. Keep a safe distance from the equipment in case the operator does not see you and in case the equipment were to roll over. This includes keeping pedestrians 10 feet back while equipment is in motion. Equipment shall be operated at a safe speed and in a way that avoids tipping. Housekeeping and sanitation. Housekeeping is one of the most basic elements of safety. Like it or not, many people view housekeeping as a direct reflection of your attitude and work ethic. Good housekeeping goes a long way toward maintaining a good public image and good morale on our jobs. Please take the time necessary to place items where they belong, stack items nice and neat, throw trash in approved receptacles, keep trip hazards out of walkways, and clean up slip hazards. Foremen must keep clean potable water on all job sites and available for employees. All employees are encouraged to wash their hands before eating, drinking, or using tobacco. Radiation exposure. There are two types of radiation, ionizing and non-ionizing. Sunlight and welding light expose us to ionizing radiation, while lasers expose us to non-ionizing radiation. Overexposure to either type can cause damage. In our line of work, we often use lasers. Lasers can cause damage to the human eye when they are strong enough. In order to prevent this, we require a few precautions. One is to post a warning sign whenever using a laser so that others in the area know that a hazard is present. When operating lasers outdoors, there are precautions you should take. Rain and snow can cause laser beams to deflect and make contact with someone's eye. Please refrain from using lasers in rain or snow. A few other precautions to follow when using lasers are to make sure that they are set up above head level in order to prevent the possibility of eye contact. And also, keep lasers turned off and kept when they are not in use. Lead awareness. Lead is a poisonous, toxic metal that when inhaled, ingested, or absorbed through the skin can cause serious health problems. This chart below shows some of these symptoms. The symptoms on the left are common in adults and include headaches, irritability, reduced sensations, aggressive behavior, difficulty sleeping, abdominal pain, poor appetite, constipation, and anemia. The symptoms on the right are common in children and include loss of developmental skills, attention problems, hearing loss, kidney damage, reduced IQ, and slowed growth. One thing to note is that since lead can be absorbed through the skin, it could possibly be where a worker goes to work, gets lead on their clothes, and then takes it home to their family. This is why we have to use extra precaution when dealing with lead. Lead is found in several common products, including soil, pottery, and water, but most commonly in the construction industry, paint. The good news is lead-based paint was banned in 1978, so our chance for lead exposure in a newer facility is virtually non-existent. However, when our crews are working in a structure that was built prior to 1978, if they are expected to modify, remove, or do anything with existing paint in those facilities, they are to ask the owner for test results proving that lead is not in those paints. If those test results cannot be established and provided, then our crews are to stop work and notify our company so we can do our own testing. Lockout tagout awareness. Lockout tagout is the practice of shutting off equipment and locking the controls in the off position so that nobody can turn it on while the equipment is being worked on. This is done to protect employees from getting caught in moving parts, being shocked by live electricity, or coming into contact with another form of hazardous energy. Any employee involved in working on electrical components or machinery will need to assure it is locked and tagged out. However, this can only be done by someone authorized to do lockout tagout. Be sure to refrain from removing lockout tagout devices that are being used by others. Mobile elevated work platforms. The main point we want to make about boom and scissor lifts is that nobody is permitted to operate these type of lifts unless they have been properly trained and authorized by our company. If you have received training in the past, please give us a copy of your card at the conclusion of this course. If you have not received training and need to use a lift while working for our company, please talk to your supervisor so that we can schedule the necessary training. Although untrained employees are not permitted to operate lifts, they are allowed to ride in lifts as long as the operator is trained. Riders need to stay inside the lift at all times and never stand on the railing. A full body harness must be worn and a self-retracting lifeline or an approved restraint device must be attached to the approved anchor point. Always connect to the approved anchor point and not to the guardrail. Everyone inside of a lift needs to watch for and avoid pinch points when elevated in tight spaces. Specifically, make sure to keep your hand off the railing whenever the lift is being maneuvered around stationary objects. No one should lean over the guardrail, jump or shake the platform, or do anything else that could affect the stability of the equipment or cause it to tip. Also, if any lift accessories are used, such as an access deck or fall arrest bar, riders must understand the hazards associated with them and know how to use them safely. This information can be found in the owner's manual, which should always be stored on the lift. Riders are not allowed to touch or operate the controls under normal circumstances, but they should know how to lower and shut down lifts in case of emergency situation. Make sure to ask a trained operator how to do this before riding in a lift. If you are not operating or riding in a lift, make sure to keep a safe distance from them while they are in operation. Elevated lifts can tip over, drop tools, come in contact with electrical lines, and be hazardous in other ways. Personal protective equipment. We have a policy on general work clothing that requires long pants, shirts with sleeves, protective toed work boots to be worn in shop, maintenance, and construction environments. Pants must reach the boot, which means shorts and cutoffs are not allowed. Shirts must have tailored sleeves that are at least 4 inches long. Protective toed work boots are required, which means tennis shoes and sandals are not allowed. And high-vis shirts or traffic vests are to be worn on all job sites. In addition, we require hard hats to be worn in all construction environments. Please make sure to wear your hard hat properly. However, we do not require hard hats in equipment with rollover protection systems or in our shop. We require eye protection to be worn whenever working in or passing through areas that pose hazards to the eye. Please make sure to wear the appropriate eye protection based on the hazard present. Make sure to select the right type of eye protection for the task. Safety glasses provide adequate protection from flying debris, but goggles should be worn around harmful mist or dust. Face shields must be worn in addition to safety glasses when operating a chop saw or grinding metal. If you wear prescription lenses, there are a few different ways you can protect your eyes while at work. One way is that you can wear your contacts and then wear your safety glasses over them. Another way is that you can wear larger safety glasses that fit over the top of your prescription lenses. A third option would be to purchase prescription eyewear that's tested and rated for impact. You will know they are tested and rated for impact if they are stamped with Z87.1 on the frame. Please note that this type of glass must be equipped with side shields. And a fourth option is to purchase safety glasses that allow prescription lenses to be attached to the inside of the safety glasses. We require hand protection to be worn whenever there is a potential for laceration, abrasion, or burn to the hand. Some tasks that would require gloves would include handling metal or wood products, operating non-rotating tools, using sharp objects like knives, handling chemicals, and performing first aid or CPR. As you probably know, gloves are not one size fits all. While a glove might provide a high level of protection for one task, it might also provide minimal protection for a different task. For example, cut-resistant gloves are great when handling wood, metal, or other sharp objects, but they don't offer any protection when handling chemicals. A neoprene glove offers a high level of protection when handling chemicals, but they don't offer any level of protection from cuts. And nitrile or latex gloves are only a good option when providing medical attention or handling low hazard chemicals. No matter what type of glove you wear, make sure you wear the right size. You want gloves to be tight to the hand, but not so tight that you can't make a fist. Also, if you're using a disposable type of glove, don't reuse it. Make sure to discard it after each use and replace it the next time. One other form of PPE that we require are traffic vests. Traffic vests must be worn whenever 15 feet from a roadway. All forms of PPE need to be inspected before each use and replaced if damaged. This includes heavily scratched safety glasses, cracked or weakened hard hats, and worn boots or gloves. Please turn in any defective PPE and we will make sure it's replaced. Powder actuated tools. We only allow employees who have been trained and certified to operate powder-actuated tools on our job sites. If you have been through this training in the past, please give us a copy of your card following this presentation. If you feel that you will need to operate these tools in order to do your job, please let us know and we will coordinate training for you. If you do become certified, make sure to inspect these tools daily before use and clean them once a week. This should be done by fully disassembling the unit and cleaning the inside as well as the outside. Never use a powder-actuated tool on anything other than steel, concrete, or block. Using it on a softer material could result in the fastener going through the object and striking someone on the other side. If anyone could be on the other side, barricade the area or take other precautions that will keep others out of the area. Powder-actuated tools generate a small spark each time a round goes off. This could cause a fire or explosion if flammables are nearby. Before operating a powder-actuated tool, inspect the area and move all flammable materials at least 20 feet away. Make sure that all ammo is stored properly. Spent ammo should be picked up immediately after use and placed in a container. Unused ammo should be kept in a secure location. Always remove ammo before leaving a powder-actuated tool unattended. We use a few different types of scaffolding. The most common type of scaffolding we use is mobile scaffolding, like the picture you see here. We use these on a regular basis. We might also use tube and coupler or frame scaffolds, like the pictures you see here. A competent person is the only individual approved to build and dismantle mobile scaffolding. They are also required to inspect it on a daily basis. These inspections should include making sure all pins are in place, the decking is fully planked and secured, and the wheels can be locked. We encourage all employees to do the same prior to use. Scaffold users also want to make sure that the floor is clear and wheels are truly locked while work is being performed. Before getting on scaffolding, stop and look it over to make sure it's safe. The first thing you should look for is a tag. OSHA requires a competent person to inspect scaffolding daily. Many times that competent person will complete a tag and post it on the scaffolding to document their inspection. The common color code for scaffold tags is green, yellow, and red. Green means the scaffold was inspected and is safe. Yellow means a hazard was found but it can still be used. Red means the unit is unsafe and should not be used. If there is ever a question about a tag and its contents, find the competent person and ask them for clarity. In addition to looking for a daily inspection tag, you will want to look at a few other key components to make sure the scaffold is safe to use. Some of those components include making sure each vertical post is resting on a base plate, checking for boards or mud sills under the base plates if the ground is uneven, looking for cross braces on all sides not facing a structure, inspecting the platform to make sure it's fully planked and the planks are tight, verifying that guardrails are in place on each level over 10 feet high, confirming that a safe access ladder or steps are present, and making sure the unit is secured to a structure if it's more than 4 times as high as it is wide. If you ever feel that a scaffold is unsafe, don't use it. Signs and tags. There are 3 main types of signs and tags. Danger indicates a hazard exists that could result in death. Warning indicates a hazard exists that could result in serious injury. And caution indicates a hazard exists that could result in minor to moderate injury. Danger signs and tags are red, warning signs and tags are orange, and caution signs and tags are yellow. Whenever you see red danger tape, do not cross it unless our company put it up and you are authorized to enter the area. Make sure to pay attention to the type and color of signs and tags in your work area and install the right type for the hazards that are present. Failing to do so could send a wrong message and result in an injury. Silica awareness. Silica is a natural crystallized mineral that is commonly called quartz. Crystalline silica is the second most abundant material on Earth. Silica is commonly found in stone, cement, asphalt, porcelain, brick, mortar, grout, tile, drywall, coal, sand, soil, and many other products. The silica found in these products can become airborne whenever the products are broken, cut, crushed, grinded, drilled, or otherwise disturbed. The inhalation of airborne silica has been shown to cause lung cancer, silicosis, pulmonary tuberculosis, and other airway diseases. These illnesses are caused because silica often scars the lungs, which restricts their ability to extract oxygen from the air. This damage is permanent and often continues to progress until the lungs fail. Symptoms may not appear for many years after exposure. Some of the known exposures to silica at InPwr are using handheld saws, jackhammers, drills, and grinders on concrete. There are 2 ways to safely control silica dust. These ways are to use water or a vacuum. There are many tools currently available that have water and vacuum systems integrated into them. If these tools are not available for use, then a particulate mask must be worn. Masks must be rated as N95 in order to provide adequate protection against silica exposure. Before performing a task that will generate silica dust, restrict access to the area using danger tape and only allow authorized employees in. Post a warning sign at the entrance to notify others of the hazard. Another way you can protect yourself and others is to use water or a vacuum to clean silica dust. If this is not possible, then a broom may be used when outdoors or when cleaning a small amount of dust indoors. Never use compressed air or a blower to clean silica dust. Since silica dust can cause harm when ingested, make sure no food, drink, or tobacco is allowed in areas where silica dust is present, and wash your hands after performing tasks that involve silica exposure. If you are ever in an area where another company is generating silica dust and you are being exposed to it, exit the area immediately and don't return until it is made safe. Stairs and ladders. There are just a few things to remember when working around or using stairs. Maintain good vision of the steps and use the handrails when ascending and descending. Don't stack items on stairs or otherwise obstruct them, and remove any debris that could cause a slip or trip hazard. Inspect all ladders for defects each day prior to use. Look for damaged steps or rails and missing or bent braces. Make sure they are free from mud or oil, and all feet are equipped with rubber pads. If any defects are noticed, or if a ladder is not functioning properly, remove it from service immediately. Ladders must be used as required by the manufacturer. This includes precautions such as not placing ladders in front of doorways or in high traffic areas, and placing ladders on a stable surface and securing them if they could become unstable. Fully open folding ladders and lock the spreaders. Pitch straight ladders at the right angle, which is a 4:1 ratio, like the picture you see to the right. Make sure ladders extend at least 3 feet beyond any landing, and maintain 3 points of contact during use. 2 other very important precautions to remember when using ladders is to keep your body inside of the vertical rails and never stand on the top step. That concludes all of the general safety topics. We will now move on to the last section, which is administrative topics. Substance abuse. We would like to let you know that we perform pre-employment, random, reasonable suspicion, and post-accident drug tests. Any employee who receives a positive test result for the use of alcohol or illegal substances will be given the option to enter our Employee Assistance Program or be terminated immediately. The EAP involves an unpaid leave, mandatory counseling, and monthly testing. We require our employees to report the use of any prescription medication that may cause impairment during the course of their employment. This could include, but is not limited to, pain medications and other personal medications. Please note that we are not asking for a list of all medications, but only those that could prevent you from doing your job safely. Incident reporting. One last final reminder is that we require all incidents to be reported immediately. This includes injuries, vehicle accidents, property damage, theft, vandalism, and near-miss incidents. These incidents need to be reported verbally to your supervisor. Injury care. In various states, it's the right of each employer to have work-related injuries treated by the physician of their choice. Our company takes advantage of this right. Therefore, treatment by a physician who is not appointed by the company may result in the employee paying for all associated expenses. Medical records. We would like to let you know that your work-related medical records will be kept at our office for the length of your employment plus 30 years. Copies of these records can be made available upon request. Other individuals, such as your spouse or physician, may obtain copies only with your written consent. Disciplinary action. We have a formal disciplinary action program. The levels of action with this program are a verbal consultation, a written warning, an unpaid one-day suspension, and termination. We typically issue disciplinary action in a progressive manner, but that may vary depending on the circumstances and the severity of violation. The item the company has zero tolerance for is either an employee who is not a qualified electrical worker performing work on energized parts, or a qualified electrical worker working on live energized parts without an energized electrical assessment and work permit signed by a company executive. Either of these will result in immediate termination. This now concludes our safety orientation program. Please look over the checklist you were given and make sure all items are checked off. If you have any questions over any of the material that was covered, please ask the program administrator. You will now be issued a quiz to test your retention. Welcome to InPwr Incorporated, and please remember to work safe.